everyone, and welcome back to Austin Talks, where today we are covering another one series. Well, not a series, but it's become a frequent series on the channel now. It's the history of music, but this time it's the origin of rock and roll. And here with me today, you know him very well now, it is...
He's Dad.
Yep, obviously we know he's the nerd of music of all time. So this whole video is him with a little bit of research. He made all the information and all of everything. I just did the format, so it is over to him. And instead of me doing all the talking, it'll basically be him and me learning. So without further ado, let's just get right into it.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, as you probably already know, music. I love listening to music, finding out the history of music and everything. This is just one thing that I just enjoy reading up on. Now, everyone knows rock and roll is from the 40s, 50s onwards. You got some amazing artists: Elvis Presley, Buddy Holly, like Led Zeppelin, the Beatles. But where did their music come from? Everyone knows it as rock and roll, but the origins of rock and roll come a lot earlier and come from a very different area than people think. Now, we can start with Southern blues, okay, where Southern blues was very much in the early 20s. It came through with the African American Society, and they had a very, very tough background with slavery and the areas they came from, the Deep Depression, and they to get around it and to make it public, and they used to sing about these problems, these difficulties that their society was having at the time. Especially in the US 1920s and that, it was all to do in the Mississippi region, the Deep South and all that. It was all slavery, cotton pickers and things like that. And at that time, they had their struggles. And you had artists that came out, male and female artists, like you can see here. Lemon Henry, Blind Lemon Jefferson, he's known as. And so you had blues singers, Ma Rainey. She was classed as mother of the blues. And the songs and the music was quite depressing, but it was their release, and this is where it all comes from. Now, from that, later on it developed into was classed as Delta blues, okay, and that came from the Mississippi Deep South, where you had the African American singers singing about their life and their struggles. And this went from a very much an in-house, just singing around a bonfire or whatever you want to call it, to like actually singing in public. You had Sonny Boy Nelson, he was half blind. You had Leroy Johnson, and he was a great American blues musician and that, and it was all guitar music. It's all because all they could afford. Some of them were even using boxes with a broomstick and a string, and that's one particular person that came to the front was Muddy Waters, they couldn't get anything. They didn't have any kind of establishment in the Deep South, so a lot of these musicians moved away from the Deep South, okay. And they went to the North of America, to Chicago, and this is where you get the where people say, oh, Chicago blues, and it's the same music. It was just it moved to the mainstream, so it migrated from the Deep South in the 1920s up into the 1940s, where it became Chicago blues.
So basically, blues became that much of a popular thing, it diverted it broadened out.
Yeah.
And is that why it changed to rock and roll?
Rock and roll developed on from there, because that was in it. Don't forget, you didn't have the internet and things like that. In the 1940s, it was just after the war, okay, and it was travel was limited and things like that. But the migration of the singers and the musicians, they wanted money. The streets were paved with gold. They went to Chicago. They thought, right, we're going to make our name in Chicago. And that was in the late 50s and early 60s. But you had musicians like Howlin' Wolf, Johnny Lee Hooker. A lot of people have heard of Johnny Lee Hooker, Boom 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 song, and they were the pioneers of Chicago blues. So Muddy Waters, he's classed as the father of the modern Chicago blues. And then from that you had Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, but their influence went across the pond to the British blues. And you look at a lot of the bands, a lot of the most famous bands, like the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, The Who, they all started out by playing the blues, Chicago blues.
There was I saw in one of I did a lesson on about blues in school, and one of them was in regard to, I think it was the Rolling Stones or someone playing it was a blues song, but it's also the way that they act when they when they're performing it. It's like the way that they act is also reflected in their words. Well, more specifically, what the song's in regards to. And going back to what you said earlier, when they were saying when they go to Chicago, would they play on the street and try and
they'd start with busking on the streets and that, but then you had areas. You had Detroit as well. Detroit was another big area for blues and to try and make your name. So it became Detroit blues, but don't forget Detroit. You had from that Detroit, you had Motown, which is another style of music, but all of it came out of the blues era. It just migrated up through the States, and then, as I said, it went across the Atlantic to influence British music.
One thing that gets me is this morning you said to me, that some of the people. They were playing there was a song and it sounded really happy, but apparently it was actually blues.
Yeah, it was a John Mayer song.
Yeah, John Mayer song.
It was a John Mayer song. But when you say it started off as British blues, but there was a massive influence with the Americans. Okay, so The Who, probably one of the biggest mod bands and that of the 60s, but again they started off as playing Chicago blues in the clubs. And they got influences from Chuck Berry, like the way his persona on stage.
Which one's Chuck Berry?
Chuck Berry's the one with the guitar, one with the white guitar and that. And he used to play the piano. It was his attitude, his stage presence, and these artists, these British artists, got their influences from that. You had the Beatles. The Beatles started off as playing Chicago blues. Playing skiffle bands, which are classed as blues bands.
What's one song that I would know that the Beatles is classified as blues?
Oh dear.
I said one.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's where it came from the blues into the rock and roll. Okay, but don't forget the Beatles got their influences from other people. They probably got their influences a lot from Buddy Holly. Now, Buddy Holly was a southern white guy, right, and played blues, right, to begin with, which was unheard of. But then he came into the mainstream and that, and then Elvis, his background, right, was gospel music. He was brought up on gospel music. If anyone's seen the film, he was brought up on gospel music, and when you first heard about him on the radio, he didn't sound like a white musician because of his voice, because of the type of music he was singing and he was playing, because it was always classed as blues. It was always, and gospel was always classed as African American music. Okay, but look at bands like is it the was it Rolling Stones? They started off as blues singers. Led Zeppelin started off. They were the Yardbirds prior to the Led Zeppelin, where you had people come through like Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton started off playing blues. He still plays wonderful blues.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, Eric Clapton. He's a wonderful guitarist.
I don't know who's alive and dead.
But you also got Bo Diddley. You see him now with the square guitar. That's actually a large cigar box, and this is the type of things they used to use. This is called a cigar box guitar. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say it's surely not made of actual.
No, but then you can make guitars out of cigar boxes.
Yeah, when I was doing this presentation, I actually when I saw who it's Bo Diddley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought it was so abstract compared to literally anyone else, and that's actually why I think it's I don't know what the word I'm trying to look for, but it's like it's different compared to others, like other types of singers, which obviously it is still a guitar, but it's more of a concept that rather than the instrument.
You can make a guitar out of anything. Honestly.
From the stuff that I've seen you make one.
Yeah, you can make guitars out of anything. It's tune you get out of the strings and that, but but these people used to play. Used to type out a string to a broomstick and play it, and that it just depends on how tight you make it to what notes you get out of it. And that was the first rock. That was the first rock and roll.
How do you? You're gonna have to walk me through this. How do you make a guitar out of a broomstick? I know you said you make it out of anything.
Yeah.
But how?
So what the basic things are on a guitar is your neck, right?
Yep.
Which is a certain length.
Yep.
Okay, and then your strings, and then your bridge. Now you stretch a string over the bridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get, and depending on the close, you'll get a resonance out of the string. It's the resonance of the string. You shorten the string, you get a different resonance out of it. It's only the resonance of a string.
Ah.
Okay, the fret is just a position on the neck to where you put it to get us an exact note. You get fretless guitars, okay. And you can put it anywhere and get the note. And all you're doing is shortening or changing the length of the string, so you get a different resonance from it.
And that's called physics.
It is physics. You're exactly right.
I thought it would be a good time to.
But it was all guitar. It was all guitar music. You look at Led Zeppelin.
Question. I didn't actually put these people in because I didn't have space, and I also forgot. Who are the Allman Brothers band?
The Allman Brothers, an American blues band back in the 60s and 70s, and they're still going now. They were a big guitar group, and they had probably one of the first African American guitarists in a mixed band. Mixed race band they were.
Is that why it's?
They were pioneering, absolutely pioneering. They were.
That's also one conflict, because at the time it was the same with Elvis, because it was with separation, wasn't it? Or was
it was segregation.
And when and it was Elvis Presley who was actually getting his influence from gospel. Got gospel, but he was also the reason a lot of people didn't agree with his style was because it was very to do with African American music.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, his influences were African American. They thought, especially in the Deep South and all that, they thought rock and roll was the devil's music, to the point where some states in the US actually banned rock and roll music. I don't know if anyone's seen the film Footloose. Okay.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen Footloose, but I know it.
It's that type of thing where dancing was banned because of things, but the same with rock and roll. Okay. It was they classed it as the devil's music, and they tried to stop it on the radio. The lot, you wouldn't believe it, but that's also because blues music was never came to the forefront until you started getting white musicians playing their music, and then it started migrating.
Is that when it started migrating to rock and roll?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it started migrating to rock and roll and that. But now on the more modern era, yes, you've still got the Rolling Stones are still playing. You've got recently passed away. You've got Tom Petty. They were.
When did he pass away again?
2017 sometime.
I wanted him to live forever.
But again, these influences are blues. White Stripes. You look at White Stripes, modern day blues rock. Okay, very much influenced by the blues eras and all that. Like you go, Elvis Presley, Stevie Ray Vaughan, great guitarist. Gary Moore, who was a guitarist with Thin Lizzy. Some of his music is so bluesy, you wouldn't believe. And you got more modern rock and roll, but they're with blues background. Kings of Leon, the Black Crowes, the Black Keys. You listen to a lot of their music, not the stuff that's released, a lot of the album music, and it's still very much got a blues influence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a person, I listen to Tom Petty music probably every day. Learning to Fly is my favourite song, but now to realise that it's actually based off blues rock, and I know at this point it's shifted, but it's more like where it stems from is really actually fascinating, and it's kind of. I'm still gonna listen to it the same, but that's always gonna be at the back of my head now.
But you listen to the songwriting, and it's all about other people and their struggles or struggles with their lovers or marriages and things like that. You still got the same influences in the lyrics now as you had with the blues lyrics. Yeah, and that's the background of blues. Some of it's the early stuff's quite depressive. In one of the early slides, it says about the disaster, the Mississippi floods, and that they draw on events and situations, and that's the background of blues. But it's gone out. It is a thing over the years. It's expanded into other genres of music, country. It's got a blues influence, and vice versa, as blues has come on. You look at some of the modern day country singers, and a lot of it's blues background, but it still holds its own weight. But then the rock and roll was developed into other types of rock and roll, other genres of rock and roll, like punk with the Sex Pistols, psychedelic rock with the Pink Floyd, classic West Coast rock, like California, like the Eagles. Then you got absolute pioneers that took music to another level with Jimi Hendrix. He just blew away everyone with his style of playing.
I've seen Jimi Hendrix Red House in San Francisco. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm jealous about that. then you got like hard rock with Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne. Blimey, he's probably one of the most iconic heavy metal rock stars that's taken it to the excess.
I've obviously I listen to Black Sabbath as well, but I wouldn't. I mean, in the songs that I listen to, I couldn't say they're like hard rock, but
I class as hard rock. You got class as hard rock.
Is it Iron Man or Paranoid? Yeah, Paranoid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that rock?
Yeah, it's still rock, but then you've got other groups, the different groups like Jefferson Airplane, Grateful Dead. Blimey, they're still going. They're a lot very bluesy rock and roll. Then you've got soft rock, Dire Straits. Listen to some of the influences of Dire Straits, the way Mark Knopfler plays. You can hear in the background the blues and influence. Now he plays a national guitar. If you look on the album cover of Brothers in Arms, it's a silver guitar. It's what they call a national guitar. It's called a national guitar, and it's got a resonator, and it's very bluesy and swing on that, but it gives it that kind of sound. But yeah, you got progressive rock, Deep Purple. You got heavy rock, Megadeth, who else? Pantera, which you probably see at the start. Guns N' Roses class as heavy rock, but all their influences come from early rock and roll, which come from blues.
I mean, everything stems from something.
Yeah,
it's like a
everything
family
stems
tree.
from something. Yeah, and a great series to watch is the different types of music. Is the Guns N' Roses? Sorry, not Guns N' Roses. The Foo Fighters documentary. Sonic Highways. Now, that's a great documentary to watch with the different styles of music in the different cities, and it's actually got Muddy Waters in it, and that's quite interesting. But now, so you as you say, you can find it comes from anywhere. You can find this is just an example of it. This is just an example of how the blues and jazz have developed into rhythm and blues, and then you've got the artists. You've got Little Richard, Chuck Berry, then going on to you've got the Everly Brothers, Buddy Holly, Roy Orbison, then going on to soul. You've got
Tina Turner.
yeah, oh yeah. Well, you had Tina and Ike Turner were a band and that, or a group. Then you got like soul with Stevie Wonder, Dinah Ross, James Brown. You got funk, which is Isley Brothers, Prince, as early as that, the class as funk. But he also did a lot of blues. It classes the Brit Invasion, not Brit Rock, Rolling Stones, Animals, Yardbirds, Cream with Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton was in Cream and in the Yardbirds. So you get that movement of people, of bands. One of the biggest ones that I always remember, and it stunned me. Now, there was a British group called Joy Division in the early 80s, a great band. Unfortunately, Richard Curtis took his own life and that, but they took the music forward, and that developed into a band called New Order. You got the same with Nirvana, okay? Nirvana, a grunge rock band that like no other, okay? Dave Grohl was the drummer. He went on to form the Foo Fighters, and you've just got the movement and flow of people, of bands, of you say down the bottom rap. It comes out of. Like, you still got a flow out of blues, rap and blues. It's probably a million miles away, but it's got its origins on blues. But
I'm trying to keep up with what he's saying with like this whole Spider-Man. I'm lost.
But yeah, but you look at it and you look at, you say up at the top there you got folk rock, okay? Simon and Garfunkel, phenomenal band. Crosby, Stills and Nash, Van Morrison, and that then goes into new wave, and then it comes down to the grunge, or you got hard rock. AC/DC goes up into new wave. Blondie came out of like a hard rock era as one of the great female rock and roller. So yeah, it's just a spider web of influences, but it all stems from the blues, and also country as well, but a lot of it stems from blues. So, but have a look at this. Just the presentation, I think, is good. It's got a lot of information in now. But yeah, I think I've done my bit. Anything from you, Austin?
You fried my brain. My brain hurts now.
But when you think that's 100 years of music,
to think, I mean, it's funny to think that we've been able to cram. Well, you were able to cram 100 years worth of like music history into 9 slides.
Yeah,
it's quite impressive.
But you can do it in one slide, which is the last one.
Yeah, the spider web. Yeah, it's a lot of it's wow. A lot of information. Yeah, actually, I mean, rock and roll, to me, it's always just been like rock music. So I guess a bit more context now gives me like, like with blues, it gives me a different perspective of what rock and roll actually is, which I think this is actually quite good. That's all for me. I mean, oh yeah, Bob Dylan,
Yeah.
American Pie.
No, Bob Dylan didn't do American Pie.
Oh.
Don McLean did
Oh
American
my God! I can't believe I've just said that.
Sorry. Sorry to correct you. But you look at...
Oh no, Bob Dylan was the Emmett Till, right?
Who?
Emmett Till song. I learnt this in a history class. Bob Dylan did a song about I think it's called like Poor Emmett Till.
Okay, right.
And it was about a story about a boy named Emmett Till, and just unfortunate things to like happened to that boy, and like there was a whole protest against like the events of this, and Bob Dylan like basically took the power of music and then reflected that that problem and made it a bigger issue, but in a good way, to make sure that the people that were involved got the justice that they deserved.
And that, going back to the first slide, right, where the music comes out of events.
Yes.
And it all comes back to that type of music, to the blues.
Yeah, I
mean, even now, you that influences all the way through.
You can write like music basically about anything,
yeah.
But I mean, you can write about anything. But the reason I think blues has a bigger impact is because of like their personal events and how it affected a society.
Yeah, it affected a whole society
Mm-hmm.
to start off with, and that's where it stems from. They express their struggles and their problems with not only internally but with society, personal problems, society problems, and more even wider problems.
Yeah, a lot of information, and it's all valid and it's all you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so right everyone, that will be the end of today's video. Thank you, Dad, for doing all of that.
You're welcome.
I definitely think there will be more in store for this series.
But if anyone has got any ideas on what they would like to hear about on various types of music, even individual bands, then just let me know, and I dare say Austin will invite me along for another one.
That may be I've got a lot of other videos to do. No, obviously, I actually like doing this series as well. I mean, we did the first video, and I honestly did not think that it would get to a part 4.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, I think there's more to happen here. But other than that, everyone, I hope you all liked the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe and comment what else you would like to see on the channel. But that was already said by my dad. Now, everyone, I do hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.